28 years later, it's finally here. But how to catch up on 28 days and 28 weeks later? We'll enter the sponsor of this video. This video is brought to you by Just Watch, an all-in-one hub to search for your favorite movies and TV shows to see which streaming service you can actually watch them on. Because until very recently, 28 days later and 28 weeks later were not available to stream. Must have been really annoying going through each streaming service one by one manually, only to hit the wall of reality that is not streaming anywhere. With Just Watch, never again. And with Just Watch, you get personalized recommendations. You can create a watch list. This time around, I have zombie movies, or technically speaking, for some of them, infected, but still the spirit of zombie movie. Just Watch has legit become a lifesaver, at the very least a conversation saver for me. Whether I'm talking with friends, family, meeting fans, we're talking about movies, and the next question to me is, where can I see it? Kind of amazing to have an exact answer right then and there. So click the link below, go to justwatch.com or download the Just Watch app, update your streaming and viewing scope, share with your friends, share with the world, but most importantly, have fun. And now, 28 years later, it's finally out. So 28 years later, reunites writer Alex Garland and director Danny Boyle as writer and director of the sequel to 28 Days Later, 28 years later. 28 years since Britain was isolated and relegated to their zombie apocalypse wasteland. There's this little town on an island with a land bridge in which the tide comes up, keeping them safe, relatively speaking. And this kid named Spike, played by Alfie Williams, has come of age, so his dad, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, takes him to the mainland, in which he gets to do his first infected kill. Almost called them zombies. They are called zombies at one point in this movie, so I'm gonna go ahead and say they're zombies now. And then the movie switches tracks and becomes another movie in which this kid, Spike, is taking his mom into the mainland, the dangerous world of the infected, to see a guy about a thing. Almost feels like Alex Garland was like, all right, Danny, I got 2 drafts of this movie. Which one you want to go with? Would Aaron Taylor Johnson still be in the movie? Enough to be in the trailer if that counts. Then yes. The fans were right. We have a synergy. I get what you're spinning. So now you have 2 movies wrapped into one. What I liked first, sweet before sour. That kid, Alfie Williams, playing Spike in this movie, he is awesome. I didn't expect the kid to be the lead, and I didn't expect the kid lead to carry the film, but he is, and he does. His mom, played by Jodie Comer, she's great too, but the movie is clearly on his shoulders. Well, I mean, and the infected, we love them. But great actor, that kid. Only been in a couple other things. Bright future ahead of him, I see. I don't know why I'm talking like Yoda today. And the tension, the intensity, because we are dealing with a land of infected that run after you. It's intense stuff. It being 28 years later, they do have a system down to an extent, but when they are out there on the mainland, they are in their world. You feel it, and there are definitely a couple kills in here where I was like, ooh, that was a infected wins. Fatality. Some straight up Mortal Kombat in here. Best I can say it. But as I keep talking about this movie, you're gonna hear it start to sound like it's more interesting in concept than execution. This movie has some great concepts. That's what Danny Boyle and Alex Garland have crafted. A really interesting world. A world you don't get all the answers to. It being 28 years later, the infected they operate a little differently. In fact, there are 3 different kinds of infected you see out there. I want to know more. I leave this movie with more questions than answers. Hopefully they answer them in the upcoming films. When, where, why, how? I have all the questions. But again, conceptually, I do think it's cool that the infected have found some sort of system among themselves. I also find it incredibly fascinating that Britain is just kind of lost to the outside world. But the outside world, as we saw in 28 Days Later, is still spinning on. That brings to kind of an elephant in the room. I'm pretty sure 28 weeks later has been completely scrubbed from canon. You can do the mental gymnastics to be like, nah, it could have still happened. And even I saw this interview with Danny Boyle where he was like, look, I'm not saying 28 weeks later didn't happen. I'm just saying we're not following those storylines. Paraphrasing, but that was the gist. In which I ask, what's the difference exactly? If Paris didn't fall, as 28 weeks later showed it was about to, I guess it didn't happen. The biggest one for me is 28 weeks later showed that when you isolate all the infected into Britain and just leave them there, they'll starve to death. It being 28 years later, they haven't starved to death. And it shows they eat animals. Why didn't they do that before, after the outbreak of 28 days later? That structure I was talking about among the infected earlier, how long does it take for that to happen? Is it quicker than starving to death? I like that this movie does give you the breakdown at the beginning, so you don't necessarily have to watch 28 days later, or apparently weeks later, but it does catch you up. But the text is, the infection happens, Britain was isolated. Now it's 28 years later. It doesn't talk about how the infected starved to death, they died out, then there was another outbreak. No, it's just 28 days and now we're here. I feel like Danny Boyle's being nice, professional, courtesy and all that, being like, no, I'm not saying 28 weeks later didn't happen. But this definitely feels like it retcons it. And to be clear, I'm not above a director or franchise retconning. There are a couple of franchises out there that probably do well to take a page from that playbook. At the beginning of this movie, I dug the fact that this film had an unrefined graininess to it. It felt like it was in continuity with 28 Days Later. Until the movie kept going on and I was like, nope, something's different about this. It looks artificial. Makes it feel like all the talk of this being filmed on iPhones, which granted they have tech hooked up to the iPhones and lenses and whatnot, but a lot of this movie looked like it had that Instagram artificial depth of field, that radial tilt shift that doesn't make it depth of field, doesn't make the background blurry and the foreground focused. It makes everything around a certain point on someone's face blurry, which can work for instances you want to illustrate the tunnel vision of the character if they're concentrating, in pain, worried, have anxiety. But this is just hanging out, walking, at an after party. Is it because of the iPhone? It's not exactly a selling point to film movies on iPhones. If I were Apple, I'd be pissed. And the edits. Some interesting editing choices I liked. The weird out of nowhere red night vision sequences where the infected are tearing into something, their eyes are glowing yellow. Stylistically, I thought it was cool. Then there are these other out of place flash sequences that for example, dime store bullet time with arrows and arrows just hit an infected, be like, I mean, if this was 1999 to 2000 when everyone was trying to capitalize on that bullet time energy, I'd understand. But in this movie, it feels like Danny Boyle is just chasing some 25-year-old bandwagon. 20-something years ago, I'd see these bullet time wannabes and I was like, I mean, didn't need it, but I get it. And 28 years later, I was just like, why did it happen? What did it add? Then you'll have these clean archery kills where an arrow goes into an infected and he just falls down. And I was like, right. I liked that, do more of that. Don't need the dime store bullet time here. And that's not even mentioning the weird out of place B-roll footage of an old medieval movie that's been spliced into this movie. That footage doesn't illustrate or tell me anything the movie doesn't already tell me. Just felt out of place and indulgent. You see that a lot in this movie. Some interesting concepts, interesting calls, but they're not seen through to their conclusions. They just feel out of place and weird. Granted, they're making other movies. Maybe it'll make sense then. But that's another thing this movie has that I've grown really tired of. It feels like set up to the next movie. And it ends off in a way that just feels ridiculous. The end of this movie made me laugh, but was I supposed to laugh? One scenario, yes, but there is another scenario when the movie's really amping up the waterworks and the emotion. It's having this scene that's supposed to have this emotional payoff. And there were chuckles in the movie theater, just in how it was executed. It almost came across as a really dark comedy. In fact, if there was a laugh track playing in the scenario, it would feel like something you see in Red Dwarf or something. So, great acting all around from Alfie Williams, Jodie Comer, Ray Fiennes, some intense sequences, some surprising bloody kills and deaths. But there's tonal inconsistencies, weird editing choices, which to be clear, Danny Boyle consistently has had interesting editing in his movies. But until now, it's always felt in context with the movie. Stuff in 28 years later just feels self-indulgent and out of place. This is a critic's movie. Excuse me, film. It's a critic's film. Already seen by the Rotten Tomatoes score, but I feel like most audience moviegoers out there are going to be more divided on it. We'll see. We'll see how it goes down. If it speaks to you, you will click with it. If it doesn't, you won't. Neither side will understand why the other side feels the way they feel. Which is pretty much life at this point. The movie's not terrible. I just think it'd be a better time if I were drunk. Yep. That was a party. All right, so 28 years later, have you seen it? What did you think about it? What's your favorite zombie or infected movie? Whatever it is, whatever you think, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.